It just is. Okay, I'll tell you why, but first you have to really understand the history and significance behind the history of this genre. So we're going to talk about that first. Hyperpop is a genre that takes a lot of the stereotypes behind normal pop, surprise, and kicks them up to 1,000. Its bass drum is just pounding and loud and overbearing. Its melodies are really like sweet and up and like kind of bubblegummy, which is why another earlier term for this genre was bubblegum bass, which is another genre which is like kind of like hyperpop's like sibling almost. They completely take their voice and usually will pitch it up or down and auto-tune it. It's a genre that's entire purpose is to be weird. They also tend to take a lot of inspiration from various noise genres, whether it be harsh wall noise or glitch. Glitch is actually another very important genre to hyperpop. I feel like you can't really have hyperpop without glitch. It's one of those things. But not only glitch and noise, hyperpop is an experimental genre. It's based off variation. And let me tell you, there's plenty of variation in this genre. You'll find hyperpop artists or bands that have variants like emo, rap, metal, glitch, fucking ballad even. Ballad. I am not joking. I have found hyperpop artists with ballad inspiration. I need help. If I'm being honest, the main thing about hyperpop that makes it so interesting is that it's so hard to describe. It's hard to pin down. There's not necessarily anything that like is super genre defining other than like I guess the generalization of the melodies being a bit sweeter and higher and the bass being like really loud and overbearing and the voice being auto-tuned. But even then, like you'll find bands that don't do that. Like Dorian Electro is a wonderful artist who doesn't really auto-tune their voice, but there's definitely still hyperpop. The reason why I think this genre is so beautiful is because it's sort of amorphous, which as you'll see later on is very fitting for the people and the kind of communities that form around this genre. But now that you know what it kind of sounds like, you got a picture in your head. Now let's get into some of the history if you want to be a nerd with me for a little bit. Since this genre has been underground for so long, there's a little bit of debate on how and when it started, but the most popular agreement on it is that the whole genre started in the early 2010s on the SoundCloud genre hashtag known as Nightcore. A lot of the time, hyperpop back then was used to refer to a collective of rising musicians in the late 2010s, but generally that's where it all started, in a Nightcore hashtag on SoundCloud. I would say the group most responsible for cultivating the hyperpop culture as well as the genre itself is a label called PC Music. This is a collective started by a person named A.G. Cook, and he's kind of cited as the godfather of hyperpop in a lot of ways. The label was founded by him in 2013 and acted as a collective. Acts would frequently collaborate with each other to build up hype. Vice magazine described it as meticulously planned and considered long-running art pieces, living installations who put out music. A lot of the philosophy with the label coming from Cook himself. He said that recording people who don't normally make music and treating them as major label artists is his goal. Another big act involved in hyperpop is Sophie. She had a lot to do with this genre in a few ways. She had her first breakthrough in 2013 with a song called Bip. She would go on to help other hyperpop / bubblegum bass artists with navigating the music industry and production. She was also a solid influence for a lot of people in the hyperpop space later on down the line. Outside of those two, some important people in the space are Charlie XCX, 100gecs, Dorian Electra, GFOTY, and Osquin. Now I want to throw it over to why all of this is important. aside from hyperpop just being an inherently interesting sound, it's been inflating into the mainstream more and more almost every week. A.G. Cook has done a lot of production work for people like Charlie XCX and Hannah Diamond, plus an amalgamation of more. Sophie has done production for people like Vince Staples, Charlie XCX, and Madonna. Fucking Madonna, people. 100 gecs has worked with some great people like Rico Nasty, CM10, another great hyperpop artist, might I add, Health, and even Linkin Park. I don't want to do the same joke I just did with Madonna, but like, can you fathom that for just a second? Just like, bruh. What I'm trying to show you guys is that their influence is just everywhere. Like, hyperpop's influence is literally across genre, and in general hyperpop has just been blowing up in terms of just listening too, not even just with people in the industry but with people listening. I mean, 100 gecs has 1.8 million people monthly listening to them only on Spotify. That's just Spotify, with other artists like Sophie, CM10, and AG Cook and other people kind of trailing just below a million. But that's so insane. That's insanity. Their influence is literally fucking everywhere. And like, I hope people go and look up 100 gecs after this if they haven't heard them already, because let me tell you, they're not easy on the ears for first listeners. That's why it's so impressive. And you know, we're gonna take even a more time to talk about what I think this means for the future of music in general. As a whole, I think this is a great thing, and there's a few reasons why I think that. One, just being that hyperpop is full of amazingly beautiful and talented musicians that deserve respect and success. I mean, obviously, shocking. Who would have thought that? Another and somewhat even more important reason is that they're going to introduce so many people to experimental music. Another being that's going to introduce more people to experimental music. I mean, people being more aware of avant-garde pop and bubblegum bass and glitch and chiptune and just noisecore and just all these other different genres. It's going to be wonderful for the general health of the music industry as a whole. Having people be more willing to go outside of their general comfort to find more music similar to X, Y, and Z band or artist is going to be fantastic for music in general. It's not something we have really seen a whole lot of before. Having people like 100 gecs be so open musically, not only, but having people like 100 gecs be so open, not only musically, but also personally, is something that is fantastic for newer people to really witness. Something I haven't really talked about yet is that hyperpop has a lot of LGBTQ plus people in their music scene making music, and not only making music, but gaining traction in the genre. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. It could give people so much hope to see that. Generally speaking, for most genres, the biggest artist in that genre is kind of the most whitewashed, you know what I mean? Like, for instance, if we're going to talk about pop punk, like, I wouldn't call Blink-182 the epitome of pop punk or the best pop punk band, but if you're going off just popularity, I mean, they're the first thing that comes up when you search up pop punk on Google. Like, they would be considered that, but I don't think they are. Hyperpop is different, and 100 gecs is extreme even for hyperpop. But Laura Les is trans and cites being trans as the reason why she started exploring different vocal styles and different styles of singing, which is even includes her iconic, like, kind of pitched up chipmunk style vocals. The scene in hyperpop is so just welcoming and open to people from all different kinds of walks of life, which is great. Like, you don't generally see that in popular styles of music. In general, I think this is going to be one of the best things to happen to music in general in a very, very, very long time. It's going to force people to want to get more involved in their whatever kind of musical genre they like, and it's going to force people to explore more styles of music and to hopefully expand their tastes. So that is why I think that hyperpop is the most important genre of music right now. Thank you all for watching. I've been working on this for a while. I have a weekly podcast I upload. In general, I'm going to be skipping this week, but every week prior to this, I have done one, and I will be doing one every week after this. It's called The Wiretap. It's on all audio platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, all that fun stuff. And it is also on my YouTube channel here and in a playlist called The Wiretap. Shocking. The podcast is basically me just bringing on artists of all mediums and sizes and just talking about their craft and, joking around about it a little bit, just talking about the process. So if you're interested in that, or if you just want to see my dumb face more, definitely check that out. Or if you want to see my dumb face some more, you can watch my back catalog of videos. I have quite a few of them at this point. So I hope you discover some new music today, and I hope you have a good one. Thank you, guys.